Went to it.
God, I hate that it does this. It's done it a million times.
I see the replay.
I don't know how to stop it.
Delete.
It says it's still live. Stop it.
Is it still live?
Did you already delete it?
Delete. No, I clicked on it and it just gives me a 12-second video.
Boom. 12-second video.
Is it still live?
Love 12-second videos.
Delete.
Yeah, that 12-second video.
I clicked on it and it just gives me a 12-second. You're gonna want to redo that.
Boom. 12-second videos.
Is it still live?
Love 12-second
Delete.
videos.
Delete.
Yeah, that 12-second video.
Yeah.
We got the wooden spoon though, baby. We got the wooden spoon.
Is it still live?
A lot of people.
It's in the mail. Yeah, that 12-second video.
Yeah.
We got the wooden spoon though, baby. We got the wooden spoon. Yeah, it's in the mail.
A lot of people.
It's in the mail. Yeah, that 12-second video. We got the wooden spoon though, baby. We got the wooden spoon. Yeah,
Come
it's in the mail.
on.
A lot of people.
It's in the mail. Yeah,
Look at all those people that liked my tweet. I gotta delete it.
I hate it. I really hate it, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. Look at all those people that like. Now no one's gonna understand the Mayflower
I
reference.
hate it. I really hate it, and I'm sorry. That's
okay.
typical for us.
Yeah, I mean, no one.
Now
Yeah,
no one's gonna understand the Mayflower
I
reference.
hate it. The Mayflower, yeah, that's
If even a couple people understand our references, I think
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
a
no one-
success
yeah.
in my book.
The Mayflower reference.
I'm filled with Mr. Show references. So
If even a couple people
Fair.
understand our references, I think
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
a
no one-
success
yeah.
in my book.
The Mayflower reference.
I'm filled with Mr. Show references. So
If even a couple people understand our references, I think
Yeah, I mean,
it's
no
a
one-
success
yeah.
in my book.
The Mayflower reference.
I'm
the
filled with
Mayflower.
Mr. Show references.
Do it.
So
If even a couple people
Fair.
understand our references, I think
Yeah, I mean,
it's
no
a
one-
success in my book.
The Mayflower reference.
I'm filled
All right,
with
now I
Mr.
can
Show
copy
references.
the live
If
stream.
even a couple people understand our references, I think it's a success in my
Bill,
book.
I got the tweet queued up. I got the tweet queued up so hard.
I just posted it.
Ah,
I apologize.
Bill, I got the tweet queued up. That's all right. That's all right.
I'll go get that link. I'll go get that link instead.
I'll just tweet it from speaking.
I'm really sorry.
No,
This
I got the
work.
tweet queued up. That's all right. That's all right.
I'll go get that link. I'll go get that link
tweet it.
instead.
Yeah, I
I'll
usually
tweet
just
it
give
from,
up and let other people do it.
Sorry.
Aw.
This
No,
doesn't
I got the
work.
tweet queued up. That's all right.
I'll go get that
You
link.
doing video today or no video?
Yeah, I usually just give up and let other people do it. Plug my webcam.
Yeah, he doesn't want to subject any of us to that, you know?
Video today or no?
Well, yeah, that too.
Hey, there
No,
it is.
and plug my webcam.
Yeah, he doesn't want to subject any. I promise I like these, you know? I really do.
Well, yeah,
We're
that too.
streaming
Hey,
and
there
No,
it is.
and plug my
I think we're
webcam.
Everything.
Yeah, and if he doesn't want to subject any. I promise I like these, you know?
Yeah, I know. If I wanted to.
Hey, there
No,
it is.
I'm gonna hit record now and then it'll
Yeah,
be.
and if he doesn't want to
My
subject
goodness.
I promise I like these.
Delete again.
Yeah, I know. If I wanted to.
Hey, there it is.
I'm gonna hit record now. This is what happens. You think you got your world figured out. You go on the USL show and you realize you're nothing but a hack.
Yeah, there's something happening.
This is what
here, I'll
happens.
tell you.
You think you got your world figured out. You go on the exude hackery and you realize you're nothing but a hack.
Yeah, there's something
This is
happening.
what
here,
happens.
I'll tell you.
You think you got your world figured out. Did I mess up? Exude
No.
hackery and you realize you're nothing but a hack.
No, you're
Yeah,
fine.
there's something happening.
I don't know. No, what are you doing?
Did I mess up?
No.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
No, you're fine. Tony, halfway to the fridge. I don't know. No, what are you doing?
Wooden Spoon's looking for an appearance.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Tony, halfway to the
What's he have to
fridge.
talk
I
about?
don't know. Well, apparently, so we've learned something today about USL Wooden Spoon.
Oh, okay, go.
They said whatever you'd like to have us on. So the wooden spoon is actually a drawer of spoons.
Oh, okay, go.
Yeah, they said it's a full.
I imagine an organizer from IKEA inside the drawer.
Okay, fair.
Maybe. But, I mean, Bed Bath & Body Works. It's a full
I
Bed Bath &
imagine
Body Works
organizer
is my
from
new source.
IKEA.
Once
How about
both of
Williams
them-
Sonoma?
Okay, fair.
Fancy
Combining stores
I
now.
mean, I'm combining stores.
Are we allowed to do that?
We can. It's going to be Bed Bath United.
Williams Sonoma.
Okay. Combining stores now.
I mean, I'm combining stores.
Are we allowed to do that?
Well, we can. It's going to be
Town, Bed Bath United Town.
Bed Bath United. Sporting Bed Bath.
Come on, you loofahs. Bed Bath United Town.
Bed Bath United. Sporting
Turn up the volume just a
Come on,
bit.
you loofahs.
It's hard to hear you now. Turn up the volume just a
Come on,
bit.
you
It's
loofahs.
hard to hear you. It's all right.
Come on, you loofahs, I think needs to be a chant though.
Come on, you loofahs. Let's go.
Come on, you Lufas, I think needs to be a chant though.
Come on, you Lufa.
We're live. Let's just go ahead and go for it, pal.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the USL show, a podcast.
Come on, you
about the
Lufa.
United
We're live.
Soccer
Let's
League
just go ahead and go
Championship,
for it, pal.
which wasn't a thing. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the USL show. We had that, which is why it's just the USL show. If you're looking for League One news, I will have to do it for you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ira over at League One Fun, where they get to talk about naming cows every year, which is unfair. Ira over at League One Fun, where they get to talk about I am jealous. I'm jealous. Every year. Hiya, it's your favorite cheesemonger's favorite cheesemonger, and we're all here. No, it is not a Phoenix Rising kit tonight. I am jealous. Thank you for asking. Hiya, it's your favorite cheesemonger's favorite. Joining me, hey, a couple of my friends, as always, here it's the West Coast. I am jealous. Thank you for asking. Hiya, it's your favorite cheesemonger's favorite. Joining me, hey, a couple of my friends, as always, here it's the West Coast. Yeah, happy March 302nd. Also here it's Dad. A couple of my friends, as always, here it's the West Coast. Yeah, happy March 302nd.
I was thinking back to the time when you mentioned that it was before when USL Championship existed. I'm thinking now, thinking back to the time. Remember when Championship in League One and League Two was like a big existed? Like everyone got real upset about it. I'm thinking now, thinking back to the time. Remember we don't care about that anymore. Is that correct? Am I right in this?
Apparently.
Like everyone got real upset about it.
We do, but for different reasons. We'll talk about it. Also here,
is that correct?
if you pay attention at all to, we do, but for soccer in Hartford, you probably know Mike. Here, if you pay attention at all to,
I am here.
But for soccer
Nutmeg State.
From Nutmeg State.
Doing good work, Mike. You've been doing good work for a long time.
Done things between the legs.
Nutmeg
It's
State.
Mike. From Nutmeg State.
Thank you for
Doing
having
good
me.
work, Mike.
I have fixed the microphone and now sounds way better.
Between the legs.
And I'm happy to be here. It's past my bedtime, but you know what? The microphone and now talk a little USL footy. And I'm
Yeah,
happy
and
to
then
be
Mike,
here.
just real quick out of the gate, hot question.
You know
What
what?
about the Mayflower?
Talk a little USL footy. It made it.
And then Mike,
Unlike
just
some
real
other
quick out of the
ships
gate,
that
hot
may
question.
have set sail
In the night.
Talk a little USL footy. It made it. Other points across the pond. Yeah, Mayflower made it, and we're doing good work.
In the night. And the Mayflower wasn't on secondment from Southampton.
Across the pond. Yeah.
No,
that we're doing good work. That would be.
And the Mayflower wasn't on secondment from Southampton.
That's a whole different Leo DiCaprio.
No, it is. It is. Yeah, those Wolves were vicious.
That's a whole different Leo DiCaprio.
It is.
So this is how we're starting. Okay.
Speaking of vicious Wolves, COVID-19 takes North Carolina FC and puts them in League One. It is.
Oh, is that how? Oh, you just jumped into news. Let's start. This is it. Starting the show.
Yeah, you won an awarding this year.
It's true, though. It's true. North Carolina FC feels like a team that's too good for League One.
Yeah, you won an awarding this year. Well, and now they're dating.
North Carolina FC feels like a team that's
A new verb. Yeah, today they announced he will not be returning, which makes sense.
It does. Feels like a team that's
A new
here to
verb.
be
Yeah,
staying.
today they announced he will not be returning, which makes sense. Yeah, so they dropped down. People wanted us to talk a little bit about if we're going to see more of this or who it might be. Yeah, so they dropped down. I don't want to wager a guess about who it might be. That's rude. Talk a little bit about if we're going to see more of this or who it might be. Does this happen? Or how do you feel about this? A guess about who it might be. My camp is that I'm happy that there is a League One for these teams to kind of. Does this happen? Or how do you feel about this? Because I think if we saw North Carolina FC drop a League One for these teams 4 years ago. Because I think if we saw North Carolina FC drop a League One for these teams.
Do you mean drop to League One or
like if we saw North Carolina, if they were like, we are not sustainable in USL Championship
League One or
4 years ago, and they're like was not a League One for them to go to. If they were like, we are not sustainable in USL Championship.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Like they live in a very much like a Rochester Rhino. If they were like, we are not
I think you bring up a very good point, and I think that is
like they
that
live
I've said this
in a
before.
very
League
much
One
like a
has
Rochester
this
Rhinos
effect
FC
in two ways.
I think you bring up a very
There's a
good
place
point,
for news clubs to kind of start, and there's also this place for championship clubs who just can't hack it. There's a place to fall into, and even for players, I think that's how I brought it up before. Is if you can't hack it in championships, you can drop to League One, to be a stud, and then maybe move back up, and then move up again. Like there's a lot of reasons that League One is really helping the pyramid in the United States. And in this case, with COVID, there's a place for clubs that can't hack it in USL championship right now.
Financially.
Things going on. Thank God for USL One right now, I guess, in a way. USL championship right now.
Financially.
I'm glad it's there for them to fall because I would hate to see North Carolina FC
Yeah.
championship. What I'm getting at.
Financially.
I'm glad it's there for them to fall because I would hate to see North Carolina FC.
Yeah.
I mean,
What I'm getting at.
Financially.
I'm glad it's there for them to fall because I would hate to see North Carolina FC.
Yeah.
I mean, all the issues, but the question is, really between, I mean, USL championship and USL one. I mean, it's one between. I mean, if it's USL championship, USL 50 more a year, one versus the risk has one between. USL championship is going to have USL 50 maybe 400 grand or maybe versus $500,000 per year. USL championship is going to have USL what different 400 grand. I guess that maybe versus $500,000 per year. USL championship now to USL one. But there's really no what is different 400 change. I guess that would be profit. I think a lot of these teams aren't going to USL championship now to USL one. But there's really no what is the MLS change. I guess for bid for the profit. I think why would they even bother championship now to USL one? There's really no what if we stay in the championship. There's no financial incentive for doing it. I think why would they even bother championship now to USL one?
Financial incentive, that's a really good, interesting point. I would say that I do think, I think in a time of COVID, that's a question that's like, why are you even trying? Because I think what North Carolina is doing is just like, financially it makes sense. That's the question that's like, I bring up this point every once in a while because I think what North Carolina is doing is soccer is such a romantic business, like it's romanticized like crazy. We really want there to be a Division II in the United States that is, that is respectable, that is something that the MLS will want players from. And I think the first thing that occurred to me when you said that, Pony, was look at what Birmingham's doing right now. Look at what San Antonio's doing. Look at what San Diego's doing. These guys are spending some major money bringing in very quality players. Look at what could do better, to be honest, right? If someone gave them a chance, they could do better. A lot of these players. But this is what USL Championship is turning into, is something very respectable. And I think there are some teams that might not be able to hack it and keep up. But what I love is that I just mentioned a few teams that I think there are some teams that might not be able to hack it and keep up, putting in that kind of money. We're looking at FC Tulsa putting in money for pizza that I think we're going to talk about today. So we're seeing like new teams putting in money that didn't used to at all. And so, I think the cream will rise. We're seeing like, I know it's a hard time in American soccer, but I do think USL Championship has a place, and I think it's a place that more and more is going to be a place to like be a peacock, really show your feathers, really show how much you can flaunt, because some of the best USL Championship teams are really signing some cool players, really show how much you can flaunt, Asher and all, a whole bunch of stuff on some of the best USL today teams that really shows them signing some cool players, really show how much.
Mike, you're the new one here as far as Hartford's only been in the league for 3 years now. Mike, you're the new one here as far as Hartford's only been in the league for 3 years now. Mike, you're the new one
as a newcomer.
Hartford's only been in the league weird.
No, as a newcomer, what is it like? I think that's what he's getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because obviously, we're still trying to learn exactly what that league dynamic is. I mean, you're talking about going down to League One, be it temporary or a permanent move simply because of financial was like, it's an interesting thing. It's kind of unique to something that we have within the USL structure that isn't really possible elsewhere, right? Other teams would either fold or go non-league. So seeing this happen with elsewhere, right? Other North Carolina would either fold or go Reno just totally fold it. And I was wondering why North Carolina wouldn't just not play for the year and even just kind of save and look towards 2022. But then obviously with MLS club coming in their backyard 3 hours away, and obviously they have some other things to consider. But it was real interesting because they announced one day that they're not playing in the USL Championship, and then the next day it's it was real interesting. So like you had the whole roller coaster ride of all of those supporters down there, right? The OCS guys were, we don't have a club this year. Oh, actually, it's going to be League One. So we'll still have some games to go to supporters down there.
Speaking of like genius
we don't have a club this year. Oh,
actually, like oh no, we're not going to have a club. Wait, we're not dead. Speaking of like,
they said USL champion.
They were right. I mean, it was a bait and switch to a certain degree, and I was not dead. Speaking of like,
they said USL champion.
They were right. I mean,
because it was Jeff Ritter must have got a beat from somebody somewhere that said North Carolina's not playing next year. It was Jeff Ritter must have got a half beat from somebody somewhere that said, and then as you do when you're given that news, you kind of go, all right, I'll go for half beat from somebody somewhere. You tweet it out, and then no one says anything for like a day.
Exactly.
Which that's the worst part, by the way.
Right.
It's like no one says anything. I mean, that would be cynical of me to say. Which that's the worst part. But it feels like no one says anything. I mean, and like we've gotten bad beats before. Which that's the worst. We try not to. I mean, we can empathize with the Athletics. Like we've gotten bad beats before. A little bit. Try not to. Whereas like I had that happen with the Athletics the second year. A little bit. No, they're gonna fold. No, they're not. Whereas like
passed just because it was like technical.
Right, yeah, and it's one of those. No, and it's for sure. Like it's not on him, but if I'm someone in North Carolina and like you don't know what's going on, right? The second someone says, "Well, no, we're gonna play next year. It's gonna be in League One." I don't care if it's like 2 a.m. I'm just sending. Like you don't know what's going on. I don't care if they tell me that at like 11:30 at night. They're like, "Oh, I don't care if it's like 2 a.m. I'm just sending. All right, hey, we're gonna be in League One." I don't care if they tell me that at like 11:30 at night.
Thing to do.
I don't care. They have a whole fan base and a very devoted fan base. Hey, we're going to be in League One. Go from, I don't know, however they were feeling. Hey, we're lucky that we have soccer, I guess, coming up in 2 months or whatever. Go from, we're focusing on the CBA and trying to get those people sorted. I don't know, Austin Lewis is a really good commentator. To, we don't have a team to, oh wait, yes we do, they're in a different league. All right, so we don't really care about leagues anyway. Austin Lewis is really good ASL to hear. It was just very strange to have a fan base that's already seen this happen once in this decade. Well, in the last decade, to have it happen to him again a little bit.
Kind of in the other direction, though. It's a little bit different.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, the biggest impact in my estimation is going to be on the side of the players, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're expecting that, this is the club, and I don't think they're going to really, like, the attendance will slip all that much because those are dedicated supporters.
Sure.
It's really on the player side, and now they're in a lower league, and what that means as far as pay and benefits obviously comes with it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, on the surface level, it looks like it was a participation fee move, right? Going from the whatever it is, a $250K to play in the championship to 100 down there. So I mean, it's all financial.
I think so too. Not to mention the cost of players.
Right.
The sad thing to me is North Carolina had all those ex-USMNT youth players. You know what I mean? Like that was such a fun team to watch. Almost like Louisville. They were basically, and to me, they were up there with Louisville as far as like how interesting their player makeup was.
Yes,
right.
And so I'm really sad to see that go. Not that I think they can still keep that going to a certain extent.
Right.
It just won't be quite the same.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think if they're going to be dropping down, going down to USL 1's better than saying we're going to take the year off.
Right.
Because if you completely drop out of everything, you've lost all your players, you've lost all your coaches, your staff. I mean, we saw Rochester do that, and they're still trying to come back after so many years.
Yeah, that's a good point. Real quick, and then we'll get into player signings. If you were contracted to North Carolina FC to play in the championship earlier this year, are you still playing in League One? Assuming you're taking about a couple $1,000 pay cut.
Not to mention,
I think the question is, was I a starter? If I was a starter, no.
Okay.
I'm looking to go to a championship team. If I was not, yes.
And how much has my salary changed? Because
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Some folks might be like, "Look, I'm just gonna dominate down here in this league and show my worth there, and then maybe that could actually translate to an even better 2022 contract elsewhere." Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure how many. What's the precedent on a USL player going to the USLC or MLS and getting a big deal out of it?
There's definitely been a few USL one players who moved up this year, but it's not. It's been they're basically the best of the best, or you're not. At least you're gonna come up and say, hey, you're gonna come off the bench 20 times in the season. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, Hartford Athletic, our keeper that we just signed on Monday, he came from USL 1.
Yeah. And I would actually say that a lot of those guys, yes, most of them are subs or they're like subbing for someone awesome. So I forgot his name, but the left wing back that was at Indy last year just moved to Tampa. And so he moved from subbing for Ioze, one of the two best wing backs in the league, to subbing for Leo Fernandez, the other of the best left wing backs, in my opinion, in the USL Championship. So yeah, thank you so much. Connor Antley just moved from Indy to Tampa. And for real, like two best wingbacks you could ever.
As if Tampa Bay needed another piece like that.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys are getting older, and what's his name? Ioze was out for part of the year last year, so Antley got a lot of time. It was perfect for him, and Tampa could be a really great place for him because. Probably the champion of the championship, most likely, if things go like they did last year.
As we keep saying, but I mean.
But you mentioned like what happens to these championship players in North Carolina as they drop to League One. I assume they're going to do the right thing and let them go and do what they want.
I don't think you hold anybody back. I don't know.
But what I'm getting at though is that Reuter put an interesting thing out there that agents have their work cut out for them this year. Because of the start date issue. The start date is going to be pushed back, but contracts, if they're from last year, are set for like February, right? So
start on the 1st.
Yeah, so we'll have to watch that. We'll have to watch the CBA, which is something out.
What it is, the start date for contracts is February 1st, which is also the report date.
Yes.
That's like when your preseason starts.
Right.
I guess this CBA that they just signed, the report date is a very floaty date.
As it should be.
Some teams are taking it as February 1. We're just going to start paying you. Other ones are taking it as well. If the season gets moved back, we want to wait till the season gets moved back to like see when we want to start your report date and all that. I mean, just it makes preseason difficult too. It's not just a money thing. So we'll see. Hopefully, hey, players out there, if you're listening, hiya, good to see you. Hit the gym. Please, if all of you show up 10 pounds overweight, I'm going to be A, very understanding, and B, a little bit upset.
If it's only been 10 pounds, I'm impressed.
That's fair. No Hardens this year, boys. No Hardens this year.
Right.
Hey, speaking of players that moved around, there you go. There's your segue, baby.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. I don't know. Who wants to start?
Pony. Let's start with Pony.
Start with Pony.
Me.
What's your favorite player move recently?
Oh, you're just gonna throw me.
Maybe.
I know. Just throw me completely under the bus on this one. I think a lot of my ones I like are what's been going into San Diego because they picked up Herzog. I can't pronounce the defender's name. I'm not even gonna try that one. I'm gonna call him Thomas.
Venky Azil.
Yes. And Blake are three very good players that have come into a team that, let's be honest, probably should have been a playoff team last year.
Well,
if we're gonna just ignore the reasons why, but they were probably a playoff team last year, and probably could have made a run last year. I don't think it's too much of a hot take to say San Diego is arguably a top 5 team going into this year.
No, absolutely not. The thing is that like Rubio Rubin was so good, and all their other like last minute loans were like they all performed. And I think that says a lot about those players, but it also says something about their like player acquisition as well, like talent recognition for San Diego. And I'm really, really, really interested, especially to see how good Herzog can do. Can he live up to what Rabin was able to do and all the other guys? So like, yeah, totally, Pony. This is going to be a really fun team. I think they've had the best off season of all the championship sides, at least top 5. I think everyone would agree with.
Yeah, I think anything, if you're saying they're not top 5 for off-season, you're lying to yourself or don't know who these players are.
Yeah, it's a good start for sure. Evan, what do you think? Who are your favorite players?
I put out some tweets earlier at the USL show. Just saying. Give us a follow. There's 2,100 people have decided that's a good use of their time on the internet.
Holy wow.
I'm so sorry. No, very questionable decisions. I have a soft spot for anybody from Ireland that comes through our ranks here at the USL Championship. Paddy Barrett, James Chambers, name a few. Dan Casey is the newest person to go from the League of Ireland, the greatest league in the world, I might add, to the USL Championship. He's 6'1", 194 pounds. Will play for Sacramento Republic. Played every game of the regular season in 2019 for Cork City, and then played 15 of 18 this year for Bohemians, which included 120 minutes in the Europa League qualifiers. So this is not a guy that was like not playing games in Ireland. He was very much playing. I think he's a Sunderland Academy kid. Came up through their ranks, and then bounced around Ireland a little bit. He's from Dublin. Center back, can play right back, but just from a personal, I want him to do well for no other reason than I like it when Irish guys play well over here. Dan Casey is the one that I'm looking at. For, I don't know, more informed, these guys will be interesting. San Antonio has been like maybe the most interesting team this offseason for me, at least. I think we knew that once the summer came and went and they didn't move Pirano, that he was going to leave for free, and he did. Which, you know, when everyone and their mothers friends on Facebook know that you're going to lose a player, it's a little hard to move a guy for money. I think they snapped up Chris Lima, who Go Hoyas, 78 appearances for Georgetown, and then had 102 in the Red Bull system between their U23s and their second team. Was a second team All USL Championship player last year, just in case. Yeah. So he shows up, and that's a nice little replacement if you're looking for someone to fill the center of the park. And then I think the two guys, they're not. The two kids to watch out for, Leo Torres, who was the first full-time academy guy to play for San Antonio's first team. Youngest signing in championship history. He was 15 years old in 23 days. He was barely a 15-year-old. Has had a couple stints with the U15s for the United States. He's another midfielder. They just signed him, I think, to a multi-year deal today or yesterday. And then the other one, Jose Gallegos, who was with their weird pre-academy thing. So like what San Diego is trying to do now with their academy, where they have a bunch of affiliated local groups and then kind of shuttle them all in to play in tournaments under the banner for the team. Not only was he playing for their academy and showing well at his local club, he also won a high school championship his junior year.
Yeah.
He's just a really good child soccer player. Go Central Catholic. And so it'll be interesting. I think, I made the joke that everyone's in San Antonio's mentions. They're like, "Oh, these kids are going to be great, but we're really mad that you lost Pirano," which apparently was me just projecting. Which is fine.
No, it's true though.
Hey,
it's true.
But to make up for that, they went out and signed 2 kids who I think are, well, at least they think are going to be studs, and then Chris Lima, who no small feat there to bring Chris Lima in, of all people. Phil, I think you said it earlier today. There's been a lot of Red Bull Academy and Union Academy guys that have like tried to apply their trade elsewhere, and Chris Lima is going to be one of those, but he's going to work out in like the Bolu Akinyote way, where he kind of turns into a nice USL piece, I think.
I think so. And there's a couple more things I'd like to add to that is that Cam Lindley is over there now, who looks great with every team he's been with in the USL since Orlando too.
Yes.
I think he's been amazing, and he did great with Indy last year, and he's moving here. And so I think that's very interesting with the Leo Torres signing, where Leo Torres, they have to be looking at him like, hey, in a couple of years, he's going to be worth some money, right? We can't make this Pirano mistake that we made this year. Right. We got to get Gallegos sold, and we got to get Leo Torres sold in the next 2-3 years, right? So the fact that they signed Cam Lindley, and they have Gallegos, and they have Leo Torres.
And they have Lima now.
And they have Lima. So think about Lindley, Gallegos, and Torres are going to play as 8-10s, right? In the Western Conference, they're going to play more like 10s. Let's be fucking honest, right? And Lima's going to have to be back there protecting. He's got a big job on his hands, and if he succeeds, he's going to be very valuable in the very near future in a way that I think a lot of Bethlehem Steel and Red Bulls players are in the USL Championship.
Even from here's a guy that's a player in the locker room that is not a coach, who I play with, who I train with.
Yeah.
Chris Lima and Cam Lindley being the 2 guys that are going to help develop your young kids as midfielders. It's not bad.
To me, San Antonio's had this, like, has it been super flashy? No. Has it been super smart? I think so.
Super consistent.
Yeah. Like, if they can keep this going for years to come, that should be their goal. Is like, hey, we always got a kid in the back. We're bringing in some awesome veterans who can teach these kids and fill in holes. And we just play them as much as we can, and we sell them for as much money as we can.
Mike, we've brought you here. You've been patient. You've waited. You've answered a lot of questions about things you don't care about. What I will say is go listen to Nutmeg State and the whole interview you guys did.
Yeah.
Because, Mike, I think you and I share a little bit of a philosophy when it comes to interviews, and it's that I don't really need to be like the hardest hitting interview ever. I just like to talk to people. You know, and it felt very casual, and it felt like you and Harry had knew each other for much longer than a phone call. Really good stuff. I think anytime an American or anybody in soccer media brings up jellied eels is a little bit of a disarmer, to be fair.
Oh, yes.
But 3 years, the title of the episode, even, Third Time's a Charm.
Right.
Another new head coach, but I did a little digging on Harry Watling that I will not talk about because you were here. He's a really interesting hire.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, when the club basically gave me his info, a couple days before the announcement in order to prepare, we had set up that interview. Believe it or not, our podcast, he went from our podcast and then talked to ESPN. So he came on our podcast first.
There you go, baby.
Which was ridiculous, right?
There you go.
But when they told us, like, okay, this is our guy, I was like, wait, he's coming from the U15 to coach a senior squad? How's that going to work? And then as you continue to dig in and as you look through his pedigree and the fact that there are so many folks who know better than I do out there in England saying this guy could be the next big thing as far as, youth coaching and at the lower levels. I really started to like where he's coming from. The fact that our team is as it is right now, even though the roster is still, there's not too many folks on it right now, it's going to be a young team. Our owner has said it's going to be a young team, and that we're going to try to develop some of these younger players. It kind of bodes well to have that sort of a manager. He seems to be somewhat of the opposite mindset that Roddy Jaidi was as well, where the players who I talked to last year, they said that Roddy just day in and day out just kicked their ass. And like they worked so hard and they learned so much. Don't get me wrong. But I had more laughs yesterday with Harry in my first time talking to him for like 40 minutes than I did in all my conversations with Roddy combined, right? So completely different. He's a young guy. He's 31 years old. I think Danny Barrera may be older than him.
Do you? So I wanted to find this out. Danny Barrera is actually a very early birthday. He's like January 8th.
Yeah, and I believe Coach is somewhere in March. If I saw his profile correctly. So you're going to have your captain older than you, but he's going to obviously rely on that sort of veteran leadership because Danny's been around. He's been around for a long time and he's been playing fairly well in this league for a long time. So, being able to rely on a player like that and actually be able to trust someone like that in the locker room, I mean, that's going to be absolutely huge for him. And the other thing that I loved hearing was he said, this is a long-term plan for me because, Jimmy Nielsen was a long-term hire, theoretically, when we hired him before our inaugural season. Obviously, we all remember how that went. Not well. Spoiler alert. He's gone. Roddy comes in. We knew that was going to be a one-year thing. Like, we knew that going into it. It was essentially a loan. We were essentially a stepping stone for him to start his senior level coaching career and then take it back to Europe. Where he still remains unsigned as of right now. I'm sure he's going to land somewhere. But right now he's still searching for that gig. But I love that Harry comes in and he's like, yeah, we're gonna try to build something here. And I think that's necessary because we're still somewhat like floating, trying to find that identity in Hartford. I mean, it's tough to go through so much turnover, including the managerial staff year after year. Right. So hopefully he's here for a couple years. He's great with developing. I mean, we have a couple of really young players. We have an 18-year-old Alfonso Vasquez who he's a homegrown kid from Connecticut, all-time high school leading goal scorer. He's on Athletic now, and he's like the perfect candidate for Harry to groom into something great. And Alfonso has some caps and he has some goals under his belt already. Last season, so to keep on building with that.
Phil Pony, it dawns on me that you might not have listened, or for anyone that listens to our show that made the mistake of not listening to the Nutmeg State interview. Your man got his A license at 26.
Yeah, his B license at what? What did you say, 16? 18 for his B license. That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
that is completely absurd.
I got my UEFA nothing license and I'm 26. So already, I mean, I'm not going to be a first team head coach of anything at 31, but I'm not even anywhere close to as accomplished as Harry Watling is now. Started out the U9s at Chelsea, was an academy scout, and then became the U15-16 coach, and then the U15 head coach for Millwall, and then was an academy coach at West Ham. I loved his and I mean, to be fair, in his defense, he hasn't really seen any of these guys play yet, and there's only like 8 guys on your roster. Like I think you said he was going to play a 2-5-0-1.
Yeah, that's what we got right now, man.
Yeah. But he said, the boring answer is we're going to play the best formation for our players, and he doesn't seem like he's afraid to play multiple formations and even multiple systems in a season, which is nice because I think there's a lot of maybe 75% of the coaches in USL are very system guys. There's a couple in particular who've made a very long living off of being system guys. High Pittsburgh. And that's fine. And that's great. But I also think it's so much more intriguing when you don't necessarily know what you're getting into when you play a team for the first or second time. So, and I guess the other question I had, you guys absolutely smashed it last year. knowing you had a weird, I don't know, season-long loan for a coach,
right?
Has that kind of like skewed everybody's expectations? Like where do you go from there? Because I'm sure when it's like, okay, I mean, not that any of us have ever been put in this position for any team we root for, where it's like you have a caretaker manager for the year, everyone knows it, but like he's still going to try, and then he does that, and then he leaves, and then you bring another guy in. Are you still thinking, okay, well, this guy's taking the mantle from Jimmy Nielsen essentially, or is he coming in off the heels of that, really defy all expectations, get a lot of points, finish high on the table year that he had last year?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because, you know, with Jaidi, what we do take away from last season is that our front office and our ownership, they got that taste of success, right?
Yes.
And from what I understand in talking with them, they really liked that. So, you know, based on that, now it's, you know, do you kind of, you know, turn back the clock and go back to year one where they were just getting their footing? I mean, our owners were self-admittedly had no idea what it took to run a soccer team in this league, or just a soccer team in general. And they learned year one, and then they learned a lot from Jaidi in year two, and now going into year three, they're going to try to continue to build off of that success. And we kept a couple of key players, right? And obviously with Danny coming back, I mean, that's absolutely huge, right? It would be great if a couple of those other veterans came. I mean, you were talking about folks that are moving around the league. I mean, Alex Dixon was definitely someone who we were hoping would sign, and instead went over to Pittsburgh this last week, which was out of any place that he could have landed, that was probably the last place we wanted him to go, to be honest with you. But you know, it's really I think with Danny's leadership there, coming back as a year three guy, the front office kind of knowing what it's like to win. The support obviously grew last year. I mean, I know those are kind of the expected answers, but I think it is true in our case because, you know, year one, we're still turning out and having fun and selling out games and having a blast even when we lose. It made those wins that much better. I'm looking at you, Indy 11. But you know, in year two, we almost kind of started to expect to win, which was a whole different mindset. So going into this year, you know, our front office is like, no, we're doing this to win. Obviously, the long-term plan is to probably develop a club that can be, you know, that sort of a stepping stone and selling team into developing players and then shipping them off into higher levels or, you know, higher paying salaries elsewhere. But as of right now, I think there was a lot to learn from last year rather than stepping back to where we were in year one.
Yeah, to me, I think that's going to be interesting for Hartford this year is how are they going to deal with the success? I mean, the unexpected success of last year. You had you played less than half as many games as you did in your first year, and you more than doubled your point total. I mean, I have to wonder, I think ownership has to be a little bit careful to not overreact if something slips back this year. Right. Because if they expect to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the East, that could be really dangerous moving forward for Hartford. I don't think they should. I mean, if you're going to be threatening the coach with a sacking if they don't make top 4, that might be a bad move because Hartford could easily be a team maybe 2 years from now who is like the Pittsburgh or Louisville, or there's teams who go, yeah, they're going to be a contender. But if you want that after one really good year, I think it's going to be a very dangerous game to play because the overreaction could happen because no one thought they'd do anywhere near as good as they did last year. I mean, Hartford was this stunner of the entire USL season, East, West combined. And I'm a little bit worried that it's going to become the expected norm, which, I mean, as much as I like Hartford, it shouldn't be. They should be aiming for maybe 6th place.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, and perhaps our success was by virtue of our opponents. You know, I was saying it all last year on Nutmeg State. You can only play the schedule that's in front of you. Obviously, our schedule included 3 B-sides and Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh, I think we went 2-1 against. I'm sorry, 1-2 against. Pardon me. And the rest of them, we took most of the points. But you know, if we had matches against the Tampas, right, and maybe a regular season match against St. Louis, perhaps we don't wind up with as many points. Pittsburgh played a lot more games against the out of group. I mean, they had to play Louisville. They had to play St. Louis. So they were right there with us until the last day, as far as the chase for winning our group went. So potentially it was our opponents that kind of made us seem a little bit better than we were. I also think we did a great job with signing some key players, which theoretically it's still early. We're hearing like May perhaps as a time frame to start. So as Damon said in our podcast, we're still kind of in November as far as player signings go. So we're hoping that those start to come in, right? But having the Ever Guzman, for example, last year, right, that veteran scorer who just came out of the gates just scoring, running roughshod. We don't have that Mads Jorgensen type like we had last year right now on the roster. But I'm hopeful that now that we have a coach, we can actually start to sign some of these players. That's going to be weird, signing players without having a manager in place, or vice versa, being a player going to a team that doesn't have a manager yet.
Right.
So I'm attributing some of the slow signing period to be part of that. I mean, we did re-sign some of the guys, Danny Barrera I talked about, Connor McGlynn, who showed some greatness last year prior to his knee injury. Arthur Rogers, Gabby Torres, they're coming back. So it's we have a good core. Now I think now that we have a coach, we can actually go out there, start recruiting, start building a team, and hopefully put something on the pitch that is reminiscent of last year's squad.
Yeah, I think Hartford just needs to be smart moving forward, and they can become pretty quickly one of the better sides out east because they have the foundation built and they have some of the players, the staff, and as long as don't set their goals too high, they could be like I said, maybe not this year, but a few years down the road, they could be one of those teams we talk about maybe a Charleston or Pittsburgh of they're always going to be in that mix.
Right. I mean, the other X factor I didn't even mention with last year is we were playing in front of fans, limited capacity, obviously, but we did have a home advantage that other clubs in our group did not have. So even if at the start of our home schedule it was 1,500 fans, by the end of it was like 40% capacity, give or take. So that grew with the state government allowing that capacity to grow. Who knows where we're going to be in May,
right.
As far as a crowd is concerned. But yeah, it definitely helped. There were the deck was stacked in our favor, if you will, last year. So coming into it this year, we'll see if we can build off of that. I'm very hopeful. And again, I loved what Harry had to say. I would just repeat everything he said verbatim, but why don't you go out and check out the Nutmeg State podcast and hear for yourself? Yeah. Plug.
Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Phil, any thoughts about Jellied Eels or Hartford?
So while he unmutes himself, for those who don't know about this whole Jellied Eels thing, I was over there. I did a TV show a few years ago, a Premier League football show, and we found ourselves in West Ham doing an episode with West Ham, and they're like, you have to try Jellied Eels. And I'm like, okay, this sounds gross. And I showed up, and it was indeed as gross as it sounds. And it's like the jelly is like a saltwater brine mixed with like gelatin, right? Like pectin. And then it's with eels. And if you really want to see it and get grossed out, I actually posted a video today. Bless you. Maybe.
Sounds
what
gross.
Was that?
Your description made Tony
made him gag. Yeah,
I think.
If you want to see a picture of it or a video of it, the video of me actually trying it for the first time, I solicited it from someone who I knew took it from 4 years ago. He still had it on his phone. He sent it to me. We posted it on the Nutmeg State Twitter account this morning, and it tastes better than it looks and sounds. But you're talking to a New England guy. I eat seafood 5 meals a day if I could, right? So,
yeah,
and pizza. Shout out New Haven Pizza.
I just wanted to say that. Sorry, I was muted. I do that.
No, it's cool. The suspense was great. The long pause. It was a very
Very USL show of us, I guess. They, I think you just nailed it. I think your coach did awesomely with what he was given. I do think there were decent signings made last year. Obviously, Alex Dixon, a very quality player, several others as well. But on top of that, yeah, it was an easy schedule, but your team was maximized, I feel like, as good as it could have been last year, and you did as well as you could have been expected. I agree with Pony. Like, it was a bit sugar coated, but he came in with these like harsh statements here and there. That I agree with the harsh statements that next year this year rather, this upcoming year, not expecting a lot. But I do think there's a chance that they could rise with every year with coaching quality, with continuing to finding quality players in your hometown. That was a nice surprise last year, man. It was like one of the cool stories of the year. So
right. And I mean, having someone like Paul Buckle, who's our technical advisor, I mean, having somebody with that pedigree and that much access around the world football, it's he's definitely able to point us in some of the right directions. I think he was one of the guys responsible for actually bringing us in to a partnership with Southampton Football Club. So it's having him in our corner is definitely going to help. So
yeah.
So having him, I'm hoping he's just waiting in the wings, just like I'm going to do something fun, But we're hoping that once Harry gets here and he starts working with Paul a lot, we'll wind up with some quality on our roster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think someone I would like to mention is that I don't think it's been said by anyone enough, and it was kind of put out there today. Tyler Pasher to Houston Dynamo. Like, that's a pretty awesome freaking move, right? Like, I think it's one of those moves where like all of us kind of are pitted against each other in the championship most of the season. But when we move a guy up to MLS, like, we all can kind of root for him, right? Kind of like when CONCACAF Champions League happens, we can all root for MLS for like one time of the year. Like, I'm rooting for Pasher. I want him to really kill it next year. I've had mixed thoughts on that success. I see Evan has like a weird face, and I say.
I am thinking of I'm thinking of a lot of people. I'm thinking of Sean Coley.
Ooh, good one.
Sebastian Iviaga.
Awesome.
Been fine in MLS when he gets the shot.
Yeah.
Not amazing, but
so I mean, be more like Alphonso Davies or Mark McKenzie, or
he's an attacking player it's scarier. But who's the Charleston guy that went to Nashville and every time he filled in did a great job? Can't think of his name. I'm gonna look it up.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you always reference that.
I do.
And I never get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you love to bring that move up, and I mean, as you should.
Too much. I agree with you.
It works because it worked, but yeah,
I mean, at least to me, as long as we could keep having USL people move up to MLS, that's good for everybody. Not
Tyler
just
Pasher
for
can
one
keep his
team
job into 2022. That's great.
Brian
because okay. Yeah.
He was Charleston Battery holding midfielder, and he wasn't the starting guy for Nashville. He probably played like 3 to 5 games last year, but every time he filled in, there were injuries that he had to fill in and actually perform. He performed fine. Like, the team did not suffer when he was in, and I feel like that is like a very moderate to good, definitely not bad level for a USL guy to MLS performance level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the more this happens, the more people move up from USL to MLS, the better it is for everyone, because USL is kind of this weird second-tier American league where there's not a lot of upward movement right now. But the more upward movement we could have, especially not just saying they're going to sit on the bench for 20 games and play, every once in a while, the better it is, because that means USL is not seen as this basically either retirement league or resigned to being second-tier journeyman league. if we could convince players not only from the US, but from other countries to say, hey, come over, join our good teams, and 2 or 3 years later, if you play really well, you're going to get signed to MLS. I mean, that's completely different than what this league was 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, this was a league that's just, I don't want to say retirement league, but it's a league where no one's going to go to MLS, maybe one person per year. But if we could get that to maybe, that whole all USL team, if they could all get offers, you know how much better the USL is going to get immediately? Because all these players from different countries who go, I'm good enough, are going to look at it and say, the USL is my ticket. I come over here for 2 years, I sign for a team, I become one of the best players in the league, and I move up. That's what the USL needs to be to me, not just this second tier where it's half MLS2 teams, half independent teams, and these weird conglomerates. It's a league that we need to say players who perform here will become professionals if they become one of the best players. And the more Pasher succeeds, that's perfect because it's another success story from USL to MLS. And the more of those that happen, the better it's going to get for the players, the coaches, and the fans because the league will improve. I mean, if you look at this league 10 years ago, those teams would probably not even be playoff teams nowadays. That's how different this league has got.
Yeah.
So I like what's happening, and I wish Pasher the best. I mean, I wish he becomes a starter. I wish he becomes a regular player because that will mean everything for the people who are still down here and the coaches and the class and then the youth. This is potentially the best thing that could happen to any of us.
Harry puts in the chat, he mentioned, I forgot about this, Gleedle, Langsdorf, and Partita, all from Reno, went over to Minnesota United, and he says Gleedle and Langsdorf are both on the roster still. I did not expect that. I hope they continue to stay on there and see what they can do as well. I for real think Langsdorf has the ability to be, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 minutes in a season.
Well, now that Molina's gone too.
Say again?
Now that Kevin Molina's gone too.
That's a good point. Yeah, you can play on the left wing.
Cool. Anyway, before we get into 45 minutes of hoping really hard that a couple players show well for USL Championship and some hopes for somebody to profit from
Good
it.
stuff, though, Pony. Thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
That's got to be optimistic at times. I mean, that's usually
good
not
for
my
you.
stick,
Good for you. I know that's hard.
Good outlook. I like it.
Good outlook. Good job. Good job, Tony.
That's the last positive thing we're going to hear for the last 2 or 3 months. So,
that's fine. That's fine. Really make those new USL front office people, throw them a couple curveballs early on. Make that dossier a little weird for them.
False sense of security going.
That was the worst thing Ryan Madden could have ever told me. Anyway, yeah. We will talk to everybody next week. You should go, Mike. Plug your stuff again.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to hear this voice, this melodious voice, the Nutmeg State podcast. So we cover all things about soccer in the state of Connecticut. The Nutmeg State is our moniker. It has to do with the nutmeg trade back in the day. That was a big thing here. But the Nutmeg State podcast, you can listen to it on all of your apps. If you follow us on Twitter, Nutmeg_State, Nutmeg State Pod on Facebook and Instagram. And we do our live shows on Twitch and on Facebook Live pretty much every week. We don't have like a set schedule. It's really like, oh, we signed a player, we're going to talk to him tomorrow. It's actually really cool. The front office is like, yeah, we're going to let the supporters talk to these players before the actual media. So if you want to first look at anyone when they sign, you come to us. And, we do cover some NPSL with Hartford City. We do cover NCAA, the 3-time defending high school or prep school national champions are right here in our backyard. We cover them a lot. Shout out South Kent Cardinals. Let's go. It's the most ridiculous jacket. South Kent, it's literally like, it's 10 stars and then 5 big stars on top of it. It's like, amazing. It's all the New Englands and then all the nationals on top. And I'm just like, I want one of those. And they're like, you have to earn it. So I'm like, keep coming on the show. I'll keep earning it. But yeah, it's great.
Well, register me for your team illegally.
Absolutely.
You know?
They don't want me on that squad.
No,
Are you
they
kidding me?
don't.
I have seen some of these kids, they're like 16 years old and their techers are just unreal. I'm like, Hartford's that away, guys. Let's go. Open tryouts are coming soon. But yeah, it's great. My co-host, Damon, who is a supporter from the Mad Hat Massive Supporters Group, like myself. Seton O'Connor from the Dan Patrick Show. He started the podcast with me. He's on a little bit of a hiatus, but hoping that he's going to be coming back soon. Apparently moving a TV show to 2 different networks within 6 months takes a lot of time out of you.
Imagine.
So Seton will be back at some point, and he really kind of anchors the show with a lot of youth and high school talk as well, because his kid is really good on I think he's on the U12 level now. So and he's killing it. So yeah, we cover a ton, but obviously Hartford Athletic is the is most of what we do. But yeah, our episode yesterday, we talked to Harry Watling, our new gaffer, who's coming over from the West Ham Academy most recently, and we're really looking forward to some great things ahead with him. So yeah, go over, check that out. Twitch, any podcast app, Nutmeg State. Thanks.
Would you say, Mike, that this was fun?
Yeah, I'll come back anytime. Anytime.
No, it's not League One. It's not League One, so it can't be.
Green Monster wanted you to say this was fun, so I just thought I'd bring that up.
Oh yeah, no, that's my after I do a great interview, it's always this was fun. That was fun, because they're always fun. But when you're the interviewee, it's I guess it's fun. Yeah, this is fun.
Okay.
Oh, I guess. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it's still fun. I mean, it's always fun.
I feel great. Half vote of confidence.
Like any time that I can talk Hartford Athletic or USL or just soccer in general.
Mike, it's fine. We live on mediocrity. This is what we survive on.
Mediocrity and mixed signals, Mike. That's my my wheelhouse. I
am
love when
all
it's
for it.
okay, and I love when you're not sure if you can tell me that or not.
I like it. This was good. Yeah,
pretty simple dip into self-deprecation, which is also our thing. So it's fine.
Yeah.
Just put it this way. If you were like, come back on the show at some point, I would say yes. So take that how you will.
You'd somehow be like, oh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what's going on,
but something came up.
Even if you take like 5 minutes to check your schedule, I will question my abilities and my self-worth.
Yep.
I mean, it's 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast. I should be doing some pro clubs right now with the EUSL guys, but instead I'm here.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
I will alleviate all of us from this pain. If for whatever reason you would like to hear more about me or things that I do at Speak Evan Speak on Twitter, it's because it's the only thing that I know how to do. And honestly, I'm not making my Twitter account just cheese based. I mean, it's essentially what it is now, but
good.
The back catalog of soccer tweets is too high at this point. You can also follow the show at the USL Show. If you did that during the show, hi, thank you. Sorry for the audio bits on the live stream at the beginning. We're out of practice because
lessons,
COVID and the holidays. Okay, and the world was ending. But we should be back a weekly schedule. It usually ends up being, I don't know, Tuesdays or we're gonna do that thing like Mike does, where it's like, oh, a thing happened, let's talk about it. But usually that thing will end up happening at 10 Eastern or so. So get in touch. Tell us you like us. Tell us you hate us. Tell us that you're indifferent. Which honestly, that would be a feat in of itself. But until then, we'll talk to you guys next week. And I don't know. We have one rule here. It's just don't be a dick.
Do you have sponsorship reads? I want to do a sponsorship read.
Do a sponsorship read.
I don't know if you have any. You don't have any sponsors?
Do a sponsorship read. We have it's my
you're
good
you're
friend.
a BGN, right? The BGN.
Yeah. So it's my good friend Robbie and his crew over at Icarus, and then it's Roughneck Scarves.
Oh yeah.